I'm going to call the Katuitt Water Commissioners meeting to order for March 11th, 5:45 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for being on time and punctual. And we have a brief agenda tonight, really focusing on the budget and Chris's review. But let me just ask, I don't think there's any public here, but in case I'm not seeing somebody, if there's any public comment, I'll just quickly ask. Again, I don't see anybody. Okay, well, let's move on then. And Jen, maybe I'll ask you to present the, we don't have an agenda in front of us, but I guess we'll take the budget first. Is that how you want to do it, or what's your preference?
Well, it depends on where you want to start in the budget. If you want to start with payroll things, you should probably do Chris's evaluation.
That's true. Good point. Okay. All right. So let's do the evaluation. I actually filled out the form and I believe I sent it to you, Jen.
Okay.
And so let's see. Let me pull it up here. And maybe I'll just
looking for the form and I could not find one in my paperwork.
It's in the packet that Jen sent.
With the
Form
meeting
unfilled,
link,
not filled out, but
Oh,
like page 4 of that one.
see, I looked through stuff like this. And although I have a nice job posting for the assistant superintendent,
Well, that's old.
right?
Jen, do you have a copy you can put up there? I'm having trouble locating my copy. I did send it to you, but
You did, and I don't think I can access my
Jen,
work.
I have it if you want to give me the share screen thing.
okay, let's
Sure.
do that. Let's do that. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, that should do it.
Let's see, where'd it go? I had it. Here it is. Can you see it?
Slow
Ken
down.
now. Good.
Evaluation.
Got it.
So I don't remember exactly how we did this last year, but
Well,
I guess.
Mr. Chair, I think what we should do is just look at each of the 4 sections.
Yep.
And then we go around the horn and evaluate,
Okay.
1, 2, or 3.
Yep.
3 is the best.
Yep.
So I think that's what we did. And then we came up with a consensus number at the bottom or an average or something.
Right. Okay. That sounds great. So we start with infrastructure management and safeguarding. And I won't read it all, but you can just take a look at the criteria there. And maybe we'll just go around the commissioners, and I'll ask, I already know my answers because I already filed them with Jen, but I'll just ask for either Tom or Mark to speak up and see if they want to grade on the first one. Or any comments?
Well, I know the security systems are fully functional because Chris keeps looking at me through his magic eye as I wander through the well fields. He caught Camberary and I walking down around the Little
That's
River
right.
last
I
week.
heard he came and gave you a ride.
He gave Tom a ride, yeah. So I think these are all very good. I would certainly give it 3.
Tom?
Yeah, I think in the face of the drought that we've been through, our water supply was maintained effectively. Any contamination that we found, we've been addressing through additional testing, fortunately, which is all we've needed to do. I don't know of any equipment failures, so that's good. The security system's tracking Mr. Robinson, so that makes me feel confident that, he's safe out there. And the budget so far has been proposed and submitted in a timely and acceptable fashion. So I'd do a 3.
Okay, great. I also scored it as a 3. And I don't know if it fits here best or not, but I do think Chris did a great job guiding us through the COVID stuff. With his policy on no more than 1 person in a vehicle, which I thought was a very good conservative decision. And I know he's been really careful. He's kept me appraised every time he's gone out of town and gotten a test and et cetera, et cetera. So again, I'm not sure whether that fits here or elsewhere, but I'll just mention that up front. So I also gave him a 3. Why don't we move on to the next section, compliance? And I'll just quickly mention our work with the PFAS that might probably fits here, as well as all the other testing that's been done. But Mark, do you want to go first?
Yeah, this reminds me, I responded to a post on Facebook today. I don't know if Jen saw it.
I did see it.
One of our customers is wondering, because of the article in the Boston Globe about the Mashpee and Hyannis water systems being tainted with the PFAS, whether Katuitt was safe. And so I responded that we had been out in front of the testing and there was no cause for concern. But it made me think that we maybe want to be a little more proactive. This isn't about Chris. This is just something on my mind.
Yeah.
And get and publish the results that we've had to date on the website. And I don't know what part of the website, Jen, but I just think that we ought to be able to refer people that, because they're going to see more and more articles like this. And
So-
the fact that we don't have to say, oh, we don't know, we haven't tested it yet. I mean, we have tested, and so we should tell people that.
So we did have to report that in the CCR this year because the testing took place in 2020. And it mentions it in 3 different sections in that CCR that will go out with the bills next week. And once I get the PDF, the final PDF back from Lou Jeans, I update that. There is right on the water department homepage, there's a link for the water quality report that opens up the CCR.
Okay, so that's where we would refer people to if they want to see the actual numbers and whatnot.
Yep.
Okay.
And we'll come back to this subject matter later because I had a pretty
All
detailed
right.
discussion.
I'm sorry to
with-
slow us down here.
No, that's all right. That's
No,
right.
I don't know about licenses and technical credits. Chris would have to tell us.
Everybody is up to date on everything right now. This is a recertification year, and the guys have close to their points and have classes scheduled now.
Yeah, so I would give Chris a 3.
Tom?
Are those classes being offered this spring or summer, or when does that take place?
Actually, they've been taken in Zoom. Some guys have been taking them all throughout the last 2 years since they've been done on 2. They usually Zoom. They usually take them during work and get their credit hours that way. But Matt signed up for one class coming up for lead and copper testing. He'd like to know a little more about that. And JR signed up for a couple classes. One being, I'm not sure if it's an infrastructure class or not, but he has another 4 hours coming. They both need 10 hours and they'll both be, Matt, I think already has his 10 and JR will have his 10 at that point.
Okay, and how about yourself?
I had a class this morning on cybersecurity, and I have one set up, 2 more set up, one for backflow prevention and one for opening up closed water departments, proper process and everything else. It's not really something we do, but it'd be something to get some good knowledge on if we had to shut a well down or something like that.
Yeah.
So, and JR has taken that class also.
Oh, good.
So I will be fine after that, between different associations I belong to and everything, giving me points here and there.
So you'll have 10 hours.
I'll have 15 at that point, over 15. I need over 15 for my licenses.
15 for you, 10 for them.
Yep.
Okay, good job. So you're meeting the requirements.
Yes.
You're not exceeding them. Mark, can you move that document down, please, so I can see the scale for rating? Yeah, I'd do a 2 on that. I think you
Okay.
guys could do some more studying, but I'm a teacher, so that's
He's a
what
teacher. Okay.
And I will let you know that I do share whenever a class comes up with the guys and tell them I tell them to take any class they want. We won't hold back.
Good. That's good. And we fit foot the bills for those, right? Through reimbursement
Yes,
up to a certain amount?
it's an ongoing battle, but they do get paid. A lot of the classes are free though.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, I know that, time is precious, and so you don't have as much time as you'd like to for the training that's required to manage a public water supply. But when you have the opportunities, I really encourage you to do as much as you can.
Okay, thanks, Tom. And I will, I'll give the same score too. It sounds like you're on target, but just following the scoring ratings here. I'll concur with that. So why don't we go on to personnel management and go back to you, Mark?
Well, we haven't heard about any discipline that was necessary, or performance issues. And I know that Chris, has a lot of respect for his employees. I do feel like we could have had a little more heads up about the assistant superintendent leaving. I think that was a little abrupt. But as I said last time, I think that's an issue for Chris to have addressed, not for us. But I think that it just seemed a little kind of caught me off guard. Maybe it was abrupt on its own, but usually when somebody's getting ready to leave. So I don't know if we don't need to talk about that now, but I just maybe that's more under communications. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's what that is communication. So I would give a 2 for this.
Okay, Tom?
Personnel management. I think you do a great job with the personnel. I always hear positive things about all your interactions with them. So I'm going to go with a 3 there.
Yeah, and I'm going to concur with the 3. I spent a fair amount of time talking with Chris about the assistant leaving, and I think I'll let Chris speak for himself if he'd like to, but I think it took him by surprise as well, and I'm not sure how well it could have been anticipated, but I was impressed with Chris's quick dialogue with both JR and Matt, and coming up with, I think, a good plan in response to that. And I like what we're heading forward with, and I credit Chris for adjusting on the fly here a little bit. I don't know about the anticipation thing. I really have no idea whether he could have anticipated more or not, but I'm gonna go with a 3 on this as well. Okay, so let's do the communication. Mark?
Why do I always have to go first? Make Tom go first.
I'll go first.
All right, Tom.
I understand you're in the hot seat. I don't want you in the hot seat all the time. Good communication, adequate, more than adequate. I don't hear anything negative. I think you've done some good work, kind of building relationships with the treasurer's office, and I know you've been working with Paul, Chief Rude, quite a bit, and the fire commissioners support him as do they support you. The ratepayers, as far as I know, everything's going well. I haven't heard any complaints. Every meeting we've had, there's nothing but praise, if anything. But I think silence should be kind of demonstration of the fact that you're doing a great job with the public out there. So I'm gonna stay with a 3 on that.
All right, Mark, you're up.
Yeah, I think that everything I hear around the village is very laudatory of all of the staff, and that comes from the top down. And Chris sets that tone for the group. In terms of other outside of Katuitt boards, commissions, I don't know, but the fact that Chris was able to recruit DEP to help us with the PFAS, I think that's indicative of being able to, work outside of the village with other like-minded organizations. And so I'm going to give a 3 here. And I think I already deducted it previously, so I don't want to deduct again. And I think that maybe I should swap my votes. But anyway, it'll all work out in the wash.
Okay, I'm going to go with a 3 as well. And I'm just looking through the language here. One thing I don't see is communication with us, and specifically me as chair. But I will rate Chris very high on all of that. He's been real, again, as I said before, very responsive and very easy for me. And I suspect both you and Tom, Mark, have seen this in the past as chair. He's been really made my job as chair a lot easier, just simply because he's, he's always got an answer, and he anticipates things. And I agree with the other comments you guys made. I've seen him interact with customers and in other meetings, the Prudential Committee, et cetera. He's very professional, well respected. So I'm going to go with a 3 here as well. And I'm doing a quick tally here. Jen, you're going to probably correct me if I'm wrong, but my tally comes up to an overall rating of 11. Is that what you get?
That's what I get.
Excellent.
Well done.
Okay, so of 11 or 12 puts Chris in the exceeds expectations. And I think that's, I think that's where we should be. I think some of the constructive comments on maybe the training and whatnot is worth noting. And we all, it should be really hard to get a 12, right? So, or next to impossible. So 11 is pretty darn good, Chris, and we appreciate all of your work. And
I thank you so much. I appreciate it. Anything I can work on, I will. And I do try to keep everything as out there as I can with you guys and let you know exactly what's going on. I'm not going to lie to you. I kind of suspected a little bit with Sean that he wanted bigger and better things, that he wanted my job. And I think he figured out that he wasn't going to get there, that we might be retiring around the same age. So I believe that's why he left, but I'm not going to lie to you and say that I didn't have any suspicions at all. Now, as you've already told me what I got, I can tell you that.
All right, Chris,
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr.
We kind of skipped over the more qualitative things. The only thing, and this is really for all of us, not just Chris, but I think that we need, when we have our board meetings, we need to pretend that somebody's tuning in for the very first time. And we use a lot of jargon. We don't explain. And it's like Chris is talking to us as if, we know what's going on. Well, we're supposed to know what PFAS means. We're supposed to know what MGL means. But I think we all need to just recognize that whether the public is tuning in or not, they may go back and, watch it later, now that we can do that. And so I think we just need to speak as if a real layman is tuning in for the first time. And as I said, I think it extends to all of us. We all get trapped in our little internal speak sometimes.
Okay, fair enough. Other qualitative comments?
So are we looking for strengths and areas for improvement?
Sure.
Improvement. So for strengths, I'd say Chris is a very good listener and communicator. He's very responsive to all of us, as well as to his employees. I think that's a really strong strength that he has, and a strong quality in his personality and nature. I've been impressed with that. Along with that, I believe he's an excellent manager with a good or great attitude. And I appreciate that, for one, because whenever I interact with him, it's enjoyable. I like it, I never feel like, oh, here comes Chris. What's he going to want now? No. He's a very thoughtful person. I think that's a strength that we should put down in this form.
I know that when Tom Cambereri was out doing his field work last week, that he was very impressed that Chris offered to go pick him up near well 4 instead of making him hoof it all the way back to Lovell's Pond where we had parked. So he was really appreciative of that. I mean, that's going above and beyond, I think.
Agreed.
It's very thoughtful, you know, and a good attitude. He's willing to help.
Okay, how about any goals for next year? Anybody want to suggest any specific goals going forward?
I'd encourage active pursuit of educational opportunities related to the waterworks for everybody. I don't know, again, time gets in the way, right? Because it's the one thing you can't change, but maybe if we were made aware a little more, maybe he's doing all that he can and the guys are doing all that they can. And maybe we should just include that in the superintendent's report about what's going on for that, and then I think that would be I think that would help me understand what the opportunities are and what's being taken advantage of.
Yeah, and we are
Yeah,
going to go ahead, Mark.
I think also just, that scare down in Florida with the hacking into the water system, we're probably going to see more and more of that. And yeah, they're probably not going to try to get to it first. But we ought to be able to tell our customers that, we have our SCADA system, but we also, I don't think that's the same as understanding how the computers can be hacked. So I think that the more you can learn about that, it's an emerging field, and that's usually the kind of thing that people are learning as they go and trying to get the word out. I know DEP has been proactive in that in the last couple of months, but just making sure that we feel like we're not caught flat-footed by not having had some of this education. I think that's a really important emerging thing.
Yeah, and let's keep this education thing in mind when we revisit the budget, because frankly, that's one of the items that I thought we were a little low on.
Yeah.
So we may want to edge that up a little bit. And Chris and I don't know if JR and Matt are still here, but I think you ought to be hearing what we're telling is we will support more than the minimum training. In fact, we're encouraging it. I think the overall theme is the world gets more and more complicated, more and more technical. So we all need to keep getting smarter and smarter, and that just takes more training. So please, I think we're all three of us are on board with that recommendation for next year, for this coming year. Anything else, gentlemen, in terms of goals?
Also,
Chris, do you have any particular goals you'd like to list in your evaluation? Anything that you want to work on?
No, not really. I'm happy to keep things going the way they are, and improving on what we have. I think, I'm only as good as my guys. So, them learning the system that we have there, that's been a huge thing with us this year, is adapting to the chlorine system. It's a constant something that's knowledge, and that's something that Sean helped with quite a bit, teaching that to them. So it did take away from a little bit of stuff, but these guys are still asked to take classes throughout the year, like I said, and they are taking them. We are lucky that we do get a lot of classes offered for free with the different associations, but because of COVID now, those are getting limited. JR wants to take the backflow prevention class, and the closest one I can find right now is down in Pennsylvania that's going on, because they have to do them in person right now. So as soon as it comes up, I've told him he can take it. It's going to cost like $900 to do it. And I'm running into the problem with the treasurer right now that they will not pay for a class until after it's been completed.
Right.
Through where they used to be able to, now they can't. Like the class I did today, I put in to be paid yesterday, and she said I can't pay it because it's in the future, but they won't release the information that I took the class until after we pay for it. So I don't know if we're going to have to change some kind of policy here, or I'm going to have to sit down with the treasurer and just have a good discussion or at least get them on the phone and talk to them a little more about it. It's getting to the point where some of these classes that are coming up, especially if we hire somebody new, that's almost $1,000 for them to get the licenses that we're requiring them to get, and we're asking them to front the money and then get reimbursed once they pass.
Yeah. I know that's a little bit of a hurdle, but that's, I mean, having worked in the public realm for my entire life, that's what happens. I've never taken a class where they paid for it prior to me taking the class and succeeding in the class.
Okay.
But yeah, I think if you can get together with Ray and work something out where you can get some maybe partial payment or whatever, I think that would, if that encourages additional training, I think that'd be a great thing.
Right.
Okay, well, thank you for going through that, Jen. Maybe you and I can get together and just kind of check all the notes and documentation on this. I assume you've been writing down some of these suggestions and goals. I've got some notes here as well. We can get together on that and make sure we have and get this one stored in the right place so we can find it next year. Yep.
Can I'd like to
Please.
just back up a little bit to
Sure.
something Chris said about he's taken the backflow and I think he said he was taking that or had just finished it, and then JR was looking at that. Is that something that helps with or will help with the flushing?
No, the backflow is basically for anything that could cause a cross connection in the water system. I'm certified to test them and survey for any kind of cross connection, and this is just basically for my recertification in that. It's a class on it of why we put them in, and it's basically stuff I already know, but a refresher on it. That's why the class that I'm taking, at least, it doesn't have really anything to do with the flushing, because unless you were to hook it up to something, like a fire truck should be built in with one, so you're not sucking the water out of the back end if there anything like that.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay, well, if there's no further comments or suggestions, we'll get this documented and stored away. And it looks to me like if Chris is in the 11 range, that we keep in mind that he's probably due and deserves a raise when we get through the budget here, which I guess we're going to move to now. Jen?
Yep. Now this one I can pull up
Beautiful.
and share so that I can edit it as we speak. I'm gonna hide my-
Why don't you, I'll take mine off, John.
Okay, let me know when you can see the Excel worksheet.
I can see it already.
Okay, good. Perfect.
Okay.
So this we can edit on the fly and have totals at the end. I take these two things out that we were talking about. Okay. So this has all of my calculations. If we were to propose whatever increases you're to propose, that will help me calculate all of the payroll numbers as well as the overtime that goes along with it.
Okay, well, Chris, I know you've made some suggestions for raises for staff, and maybe you want to just speak to those briefly here.
I just had mentioned, are you talking about after I did the evaluations, or are you talking about with the assistant being gone?
Well, maybe a little I think we need to address both, right?
Yeah.
So take them in either order you want, but
They all three of the employees exceeded in their evaluations. So they are up for a raise also. According to, if you want to see them, I can scan them and send them around and everything. You haven't looked in the past, you usually have gone up what I said, but if you need to see them or would like to question about them or anything like that, I can send them around.
I'm good with your judgment, Chris.
Okay.
I don't know. Commissioner Robinson. Orson.
Good to see it.
go ahead, Chris.
All right, so we talked about last month a little bit more on the assistant superintendent and our plan to move the operators up to kind of senior operators at this point and have them both take on a little more responsibility. The both of them right now, there should be a, in the packet, a budget that was brought up. They both make right now $56,650 a year. I'd like to bump the both of them up to about 59. And maybe if, my question would be, if we do that, would you want to do it retroactive, going back to when Sean left, since they have taken on that responsibility almost as soon as they've already turned into the secondary operators. They will be on this year's ASR as secondary operators. Other than that, that we still have enough money in Sean's line to cover that if we do bring it up. It's not like we'd have to ask for any money or anything like that. That's money that's there.
Well, just if I can just add to that for the other commissioners' benefit, because Chris and I have talked about this in some detail. And I think the other thing we need to get on the table, Chris, is if we take this action to have JR and Matt both serve as, you know, you say, sort of assistant level senior operators, you and I talked about, you're still going to be down one person. So I think we still need another body in here. And
Correct.
So we got to talk, that kind of is part of the same picture. So can you address that as well?
Right, yeah, and we have, I'd like to put out an ad and hire a entry-level laborer, operator. There is a description that came out in the folder there of an ad that we would put in the paper, that would be asking for a Class 1 distribution and a Class 1 treatment license, which would start them out at $42,000 a year, which we would still have enough money left over in the budget to cover that also. We actually, if we hired somebody that was a level 2, which has at least 2 years experience, came from another water department with the actual licenses that we didn't have to train, we'd start them out at $47,000 with our job description. And we still have the money left in there that would cover that without asking for any also. So we could put out and see what happens if we get a level 1 or 2 applying for the job and still have the amount of money in the budget without having to ask for any extra.
Okay. All right, so that's
the salary schedules that we prepared a few years back.
Yeah, they were in the, they should be in the packet that you have there in your hand. If you ran it off that Jen put in, it has the system operator levels, step categories, and on the bottom, it has their salaries.
Do you have the senior operator salary schedule?
That was
We
the
really
level
don't-
5.
A senior operator would be a level 5, which is 62,000.
62,
Yes,
and that's starting.
correct. That would be a senior operator. And I think there's a misquote in here. When I was looking through this, the senior operator actually has more qualifications than the assistant superintendent description. I think that we put the wrong wording in there. It says that they must have 7 years experience with managing a municipal water supply with at least 5 of those at Katuitt Water Department. I think that was
That's for what, for assistant super?
No, that's for the level 5 requirements underneath our system operators, which would be a senior operator, basically. Our assistant superintendent asked for 5 years of managing. So I think that was supposed to be experience in municipal water, as it was in level 4.
Okay.
So how do you arrive at the 59 figure, Chris? If the other one was, if the grade was 62?
They haven't reached all the requirements for the level 5, which is the senior operator, according to our description. So I was trying to give them a little more appreciation for what they're doing now and giving them a raise before with what we have left here.
Tom, in
Can we
that
give raises for within the same fiscal year because there's money in the budget?
Correct.
Okay. So,
I guess I'd also like the other commissioners to to weigh in on this whole concept that we've been talking about, that being, we're going to hold off on going out and hiring assistant superintendent and have the two senior operators, Matt and JR, kind of step up. I mean, I want to make sure everybody's on the same page here. Chris and I have talked about that quite a bit. And I think given everything that's gone on and how well Matt and JR are doing, I like the idea, but I want to make sure that everybody's on board there. So how do you guys feel about that?
The reason we established the position of assistant superintendent was so that we had a succession plan, right?
Correct.
So that if something were to happen to Chris, like he wins the lottery and decides to move to Key West, we're not stuck with not being able to run the system effectively. So I think with JR and Matt, if we can keep them on board and keep them happy, I think we have a succession plan. So I'm fine with it.
Okay. Commissioner Robinson?
Well, I mean, I guess they have equivalent experience. You said one has six months more than the other or something like that. But are we basically eliminating this assistant position? We're just saying we've never had two senior operators before, have we? Only one.
No, we have not.
Right. So,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, at some point, and probably based on performance, you're going to have to deputize one to be in charge when you're not there. So
Correct.
but I guess you're saying you're not there yet. You don't have to make that decision yet, or
I think the thought was to, given where we're at in the season, approaching the busy time of the year and everything else going on, this certainly looks like a good interim situation. But I think, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, we want to reserve the right to come back, I don't know how long, 6 months maybe, and discuss this again, whether or not you need to just, whether one of these guys just gets the title or whether or not there's any other decisions that need to be made. Is that right?
Correct. I'd like to revisit at a later date. I wouldn't want to really put a timestamp on it right now, but if you say 6 months, yeah, that I could reevaluate it then. And
but we won't have the money in the budget in 6 months unless we put it in now. So you'd be making a decision
True.
6 months from
Well,
now for the next fiscal year.
And I didn't have 6
Yeah.
months in mind. I just put that out as a discussion item, but we could time it with the budget, if that makes more sense.
I think it makes sense to figure out the titles and the seniority, whatever, next fiscal year, and just go forward this fiscal year with two equivalent seniors, and then let it play out and see, who is. I mean, maybe neither of them will be ready to be an assistant superintendent, but at least we will know that they'll be trying to educate themselves more, exceed the exceeding of the performance. So I think that, yeah, for a year's period, I think it's okay. I don't think it's a long-term solution to have two equivalent positions and not know who's in charge when Chris is not here. I mean, in the past, you had Mr. Hoover that, had lots of experience, and whether he was the assistant superintendent or not, it just made sense that he was the guy that knew what to do. And so, but I guess for a year, it's okay. I just wouldn't want it to go on indefinitely.
Okay, well, I just want to clarify that before we sort of jump on this budget, because we're going to make a decision, I guess, as you see that zero in the second line there. I guess that's where we're heading in this discussion. And that, as Chris is suggesting, because of that, we have enough money to do other things, including hiring this laborer, which I think that all makes sense. But I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page. And I do agree with Commissioner Robinson, and Chris, you and I did talk about this as well, that if you are going to go away, we need to know who the number one go-to person is going to be during that time you're not there, and maybe even have that set up in case an emergency comes up. So I do agree that And I'll let, you know, we can talk more about that. It's something that could, I think you mentioned to me, it might be JR at one point and Matt at another point. And that might be okay too, as long as we know who the go-to is, in case you happen to have to disappear for a little bit of time.
Correct. Yeah. Okay.
The office manager will
understandable.
need to know that too.
Good point. But I think we can deal with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that, you know, that's something that Chris and the chair can figure out as the year goes along.
Okay, so having, now that we have agreement on that conceptually, let's go back to the budget here. Chris is proposing, I guess, that we don't fund the assistant superintendent, obviously, and we raise the two seniors operators up to 59. Any discussion on that? Starters?
59 is what, like a 4% bump for them, right?
I did not work it out on paper.
I got it right here.
Okay.
This is 4%, a little over 4. And then we'd be looking at cost of living as well, right?
Correct. They would still be entitled to a raise come when the new budget starts.
Yeah.
So it would be whatever would be proposed would be the new 59,000 plus whatever the raise is that you guys agree upon tonight.
In your mind, is 4% sufficient for the additional work that they're going to be asked to do? And put yourself in the worst case scenario, like you win the lottery, terrible thing happens, you win the lottery and you move to wherever your preferred location is. And they're stuck with it.
If I was to, they would not have well, actually, they would have the licenses right now to be able to run the water department. They can right now sign off on things with a grade 2 distribution and a grade 1 treatment license is all that's really required to run the Katuah Fire District.
Okay.
They might have some trouble, which is something that I will be working on this year with a little more of the compliance issues of what has to be done, when it has to be done, what they have to follow. And that's stuff that we'll see who steps up for this year and everything else.
That's
So
a steep learning.
I had done this as, you know what, we're asking them to take on more responsibility to kind of report to me during the day and everything else, which they've always done anyways.
Yep.
Let me know what's going on. I felt it was a good raise for them to show them that we appreciate what they're doing. We appreciate them sticking up right now to go from there. I was trying to stay below the 62,000 here. I thought it was a good halfway point, which the qualifications aren't there for yet. But I will say that JR in 6 months after the new year will hit this point where he could probably move to 62 halfway through the year.
With it because of the licenses that he'll have hold?
Because of the 7 years experience and
And the
everything else.
7
The
years
license, yes,
Gotcha.
yes.
Okay.
So does that mean another line item, Chris, that you would want to reserve for, you know, mid-year, whatever raises based on qualifications?
No, that would just be something that Jen would put in as a note, that a budget for it now for it happening, because he'll be eligible at a certain point.
Right, but we got to put extra money in then if we are
Cover that,
thinking
correct.
it's possible.
So I would
Right.
budget that from January forward.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking for a cost of living? Let me just throw another little wrinkle into it. It's a low interest rate, right? So like the Social Security and the Fed's cost of living raises are going to be very low this year, less than 2%. But are you thinking 2%, or is anybody given some thought to that?
I wonder how much of that is a COVID factor too, Tom. And
Yeah.
therefore temporary.
Yeah. Have
It's
you put
typically
any
been
thought into that,
3%
Chris?
in recent years, I think.
Yeah, 3% has been the normal the last few years.
Yeah. So at 3%, that puts them both over 62. If we give them the 59 and then give them a cost of living at 3%. If we give them if we give them 59 and a 2% raise, then they're at 61,180. And I'm not nickel and diming here. I'm just thinking, you know, if we have this level 5 requirement and it's a 62, maybe that's too low, or not.
I thought we figured it out that it was lower than that, to tell you
Yeah.
the truth.
I have different numbers than that, Tom. I have them at 59 with a 3% cost of living brings them to 60,770.
59.
59,000 times 0.03, right? 3%
Yeah,
is 1,770
yep.
plus my 59. I think you're right. Yeah.
I get the same number, Jen. Multiply
Okay.
times 1.03.
60,770.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Hard to catch Jen on a mistake like this.
This is good.
Especially with our spreadsheet. Carol Zayas has a question.
Oh, Carol, yes. Sorry I didn't see your hand. Go ahead.
No, it's all right. I just put it up. I also just texted you.
Oh.
Can there be any consideration about giving Matt and JR a bonus for this year? And then doing the raise and the COLA as part of the New Year's budget? Just an idea. I don't know anything more about it.
Well, I think the effect is the same. If we give them an in-year salary increase, it's an effective bonus. I don't think it's treated differently for tax purposes. Bonus would be taxed just as much.
Carol, are you suggesting that would be more of a temporary thing, given, depending on what happens, as opposed to a permanent raise? Is that kind of what you're getting at there?
I was just getting at a different concept because Chris is trying to reward them for the added work, which sounds more like a bonus than a salary increase. And so you could do that, and then their salary at where it is right now would then be the current point for determining the raise and the COLA. I don't know if it makes a difference one way or another. It was just a thought that came to mind.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for the
Hi,
suggestion.
everybody, by the way.
Good to hear about all options. So thank you for that, Carol.
Mhm.
Commissioners, any responses to that idea?
If you don't mind, I'd like to just say,
Please.
I don't think that if we give them a bonus now, we'd have to put some kind of bonus in for the future, because I'm not going to ask them to stop doing the work after this year stops. This is for added work that they're taking on and probably going to keep for all year. I think they should be getting paid for it. I don't think it'll go away at all.
Yeah, I agree. Mr. Chair, I'm going to have to leave at 6:45 or a little thereafter for another meeting.
Okay.
So I would like to propose that we make retroactive raises for JR and Matt backdated to the departure date of Sean, and to increase that to a annual rate of 59,000 prorated over that period of time between the departure date and the end of the fiscal year. And then to budget the 3% COLA increase for FY22, but to have a little extra, an extra 1,230, whatever it is, to get JR, sorry, JR to the 62 level based on meeting the qualifications at that time during FY22.
Okay, that's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion on that one? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
All right.
Excellent. Thank you for that motion. I think that's the right decision. And given the time constraints here, I think we need to move back to Chris here and figure out what we're doing there. Is there any thoughts on, we've just completed his review. He's 11 out of 12. He deserves a raise. Is there any thoughts and suggestions there?
What did we do last year? Is this what we did last year?
We did a 3% across the board last year.
So it's just the cost of living?
Correct.
So you're kind of stuck in that cost of living increase.
Yeah, I guess I'll just weigh in here quickly that, you know, again, from speaking to Chris quite a few times about this, JR and Matt are going to step up and help fill the void of no assistant for this year. Chris is going to be doing that too. He's going to be, you know, so this is going to be a challenging year, and it already has been. And I want to make sure everybody's compensated so we can get the job done. We're a small department, and we're missing a pretty key person here. So I think we should think about that when we address Chris's raise.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at too, Scott. I think you know, the cost of living is great, and that helps with keeping up with the interest rate and the cost of living. And we all know that the cost of living on Cape Cod and Katuitt is considerably higher than most places in the United States, probably, or at least a lot of places in the United States. Not most, I'm sure. So I agree. He's going to be taking on some extra responsibilities. We're a man down, right? And we're talking about going for a seasonal worker or a new hire as an operator. Is that right? A junior operator?
A new laborer, yeah, a new level 1 or level 2 operator coming in to be the third person that we usually have.
So that's
So
going
there's
to
gonna be a
help.
lot of
It's also
training
going to
going on.
require you to train them.
Correct.
Yeah.
So let's, again, I'm trying to be respectful of time here, Commissioner
Well,
Robinson.
I think it's, you know, it might be in terms of consistency that we might consider bringing Chris from 102.9 up to 106 and make that retroactive to the departure date of the assistant super as well, and then have the 3% on top of that going forward for FY22. That's my motion.
Is there a second?
Well, how did you come up with that 3,087.21? Where'd that come from?
I just think that no, I'm saying that backdating it to the departure date, so he'll have a monthly increase that's spread out over the next couple of months, but it's retroactive. It's showing a retroactive raise back to the backdated of the equivalent of a $3,000 raise for the year. So in other words, his monthly gross would be based on a 106 number and for the rest of the fiscal year and backdated to January, or I'm sorry, to the departure date. And then at the beginning of the new fiscal year, he starts fresh at that 106 number plus the 3%.
So Tom, this 3,087 is just 3% of his current salary.
Okay.
But if you are looking to keep it consistent with what Matt and JR got as a bump, we talked about that being a 4% increase for them. That's an additional $4,000, $4,100, which puts him where Mark was. So if this is 106 and he gets a 3% COLA, his new salary will be 109, 180.
So that's a 3% COLA, but without a raise. Is that correct?
Oh, the
No,
raise.
it is with the raise. The raise
Oh,
is
you already changed it. I'm sorry. Okay. I
And
see
that
it,
would
I
be
see it.
consistent with the percent raise for JR and Matt.
Correct.
essentially.
Yeah.
Which I could get behind. I'm fine with that.
All
I
right.
just
So
wondered where you came up with 3%. I didn't understand that.
Right now, I just have a base budget of 3% COLA.
And then we have 3% cost of living.
all right. So Commissioner Robinson, is that still your motion?
That was my motion.
Is there a second?
Is this your motion, or was the 3% increase for?
No, it's to make his monthly gross based on an annual rate of 106 and have that backdated to the departure date of the assistant. And then at the beginning of FY22, it would be 106 plus the 3% increase, giving it a 109, 180 annual rate.
I don't think that's what we're seeing here.
So this would be his current rate as of
Yeah,
Sean's termination date. He would get a 3%, see the formula? He would get a 3% increase that would bring him to 109, 180.
yeah.
For
Then you've got the
FY22.
3% cost of living as well, right?
No,
No, that is the
3%.
cost of living. See,
Oh, so
he's
you're
already
just
he's at
giving him the cost of living.
102.9.
I see.
102.9 now, Tom.
Yep, he's 102.9.
I had the same misunderstanding, Tom. The number, the 106 is the new increased raise number.
Plus 3%.
Okay.
Sorry, that's at 4. Let me fix that. Brings him to 109, 180.
All right.
The important thing is, does Jen know what I'm talking about for the minutes?
I do.
And Jen, do we have that in the budget?
I will do the math, but I believe so. So there was a page in there that's an expenditure ledger that we had
Yes.
done a lot of the calculations on.
I think I just fired it across
Can I
my
copy
bedroom.
So we had 23,008 left over after paying out the assistant superintendent
Correct.
vacation time. We've put aside $11,800 roughly in case we hire somebody that already has a license and comes in at a level 2 for
Correct.
April, May, and June, as well as the increases for Matt and JR. And I do believe that we had a little bit left over after that. And I think it's enough to bring Chris from 102 to 106. And this is assuming, that you guys approve the junior field operator position tonight, and we put it in the paper tomorrow, and they start April 1st, which that's a pretty aggressive timeline.
Well, I'll second Commissioner Robinson's motion.
Okay, any further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. I guess the only person we haven't talked about is Jen. And I would certainly like to think that we should consider a raise there as well. I deal with Jen as more than anybody, I think. And sorry, Chris, but she's the one that picks up the phone. And she always, as we all know, she always has more than the answer. I think does an incredible job. And frankly, I think she's underpaid. That's my own view for what she does. She's really running the show. I mean, again, no disrespect, Chris, you're technically running the show, but Jen's the one sitting in the middle of the crossfire.
None taken whatsoever. She has stepped up with the Zoom, doing everything she's done. And as I said before, she's done wonders this year between saving money with the telephones, and that was all her. This year, what we're doing right now, I couldn't do this. This is something that she does with the computer, with everything else. So yes, I fully agree with anything.
Okay.
Not more than you could give. Yes.
So I don't know. I don't want to prolong the conversation here, but I think these are the key people. Again, we're starting a year here without an assistant. It's going to be a different ball game. Jen's a critical player. I'd like to see if one of the commissioners would like to recommend something there as well.
I would fall in line with what we've done so far and recommend that Jen receive a 4% retro raise to the date of Sean's departure, bringing her current salary up. And I don't know if it's shown in this figure that I'm looking at right now, the 59,740. Is that what you're making right now?
That's my current right now. Yep. So if we
add the 2390 to that.
Yep. Puts me at 62, 129.60.
Okay, you've got the math. And
I've got Excel. They're magical.
I've got a cell phone.
Magical spreadsheet.
But no, Jen, I'm just wondering if we get apples and apples to here, because the 106 on the left is Chris's new proposed salary.
Correct. She has to
But-
put her new proposed.
Yeah, put that
So I
in
just
there.
wanted to make sure you saw the
Okay,
4%
okay.
before I moved it here.
Okay, yep,
62, 129.60.
okay.
Put this back to
Uh,
3. Puts me at
There
63,993.
you go.
Okay, and Carol, I see your hand is up. I don't know if you just haven't taken it down, or did you want to comment on something again, or?
No, I didn't know I needed to take it down.
That's okay, I just want to make sure.
The high five there.
There you go, thank you.
Sorry.
Okay,
about
so I'm trying to, we have a motion. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of that raise for Jen, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Excellent.
Thanks.
I'm gonna have to
Okay.
leave, guys. I'm sorry.
Okay,
At my own board meeting.
Good luck, Mark. Thank you.
Hurry on,
Thanks,
keep the
Mark.
faith. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Mark.
we promise we won't cut your salary.
Ah.
So, Jen, I know I don't know if we want, how detailed we need to go through this, but we did have a good conversation, and I would like at least Tom to be aware of some of the increases. I'll just, from my memory, the big ones were on my end were that I think we need to up the testing, the analytical testing. I'm advocating more PFAS testing and maybe even some other organics, given all the stuff that's been in the news. I totally agree with Commissioner Robinson's earlier comment. We want to be out front. We don't want to just do the minimum. We want to be transparent. There's been a lot of stuff in the newspapers, so I want to be, people saying Katuitt's doing more than anybody. That's what I want. I don't want to say we're doing the minimum. So I think the testing needs to go up. I think we've already, and the other thing I think we need to revisit, Jen, is the training. Given this tonight's discussion, I forget the number that was in here, but again, it was very small. And the third item I wanted to flag, Tom, was that I'm anticipating we're going to do something with this irrigation policy. And if we do, I think we're going to need some summer help to get that program up and running. I won't go into any great detail now, except to say that I think we're going to want to do some inventory of what's out there for irrigation systems and private wells. It's going to take some time. And I envision sort of a GIS kind of cataloging of all that. Now, if we don't do anything with irrigation, we won't have to do that. But this is budget time, and we can appropriate things, propose things, and not spend them if we don't need to. But I do think if we're going to move forward with irrigation, I don't think this is something that's going to be able to be absorbed by Jen and Chris and crew. I think we're going to need, and my idea was a summer intern to get this up and running. So so maybe you could just give us those numbers, Jen. Anything else you think we should flag here? But those were the main items.
So I changed, obviously, assistant superintendent to 0. I put in a placeholder of 47,000 for the new junior operator. That is the max, assuming that we hire somebody that comes in with a license. Likely it will be 42,000 if we hire someone with no licenses. We will know this number prior to the annual district meeting and be able to adjust this accordingly for the budget that gets voted on by the district. I will recalculate all of the overtime based on the increases that you just gave us all, and thank you. And I left a placeholder here for the intern that we talked about, Scott. So I'll pull up the water testing breakdown in 1 minute, but we have in there right now 11,500 as our proposed budget going forward. And then training and education, we had
Jen?
3. Yep.
You have the breakdown up here now. Do you want to pop the budget back up?
Oh, I thought the budget was back up.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, I
sorry.
was going to ask the same.
Thank you. Hang on 1 second. New share budget.
Thank you.
Got it now?
Yep.
Okay. So anyway, here's the salary that I just ran through. I've got the placeholder for the intern. The overtime I'll recalculate with the new rates. We've got 11.5 in for water quality testing, so I'll get that breakdown in 1 second. And then training and education, we have 3,000 in there, which when I get to that section of all of our calculations includes, it includes $1,000 to train a new operator, $1,200 for miscellaneous required training for the existing operators if they hold the conference in Worcester, in May of 22. There's a placeholder there for Chris, as well as the holiday meeting and the trainings in Bourne, which comes in just under 3,000. So there's certainly room we can add in there. We were at 4,000 last year when both of the operators attended the T2 training at 4Cs. That was a more expensive training. And if JR is going to take the backflow testing course, Chris estimated that to be around $900. We could certainly add that in there as well.
You know, I think it's great that you've detailed what you know, but I think what I'm hearing, and Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, especially from you, is that there's probably other training that we ought to be taking advantage of, or we can take advantage of, that we can't even articulate right now. But I think the direction, at least what I'm hearing you say, is we'd like the staff, Chris, to look for opportunities to really, again, get out there and exceed this. And I'm not talking about over the top. I'm just talking increase more than the minimum. So I would suggest, if you go back to that other budget sheet with just the totals, instead of going through the details and trying to figure out what that training is now, it strikes me that that 3,000 number is maybe half of what it needs to be, would be where I would start out thinking about a training number. But
Yeah, and I think, as I recall at the last meeting, I said those were the two areas that I had problems with, that we needed to beef up a little bit, was training, education, and testing. So we're on the same page.
what do you think about a $6,000 number there? I mean, just for budgeting purposes, Tom.
I think it's appropriate.
All right, why don't we put that in for starters, and we can take a vote on everything once we get through it, maybe. The other area is I wanted to focus on was the testing again. Where is that in here? Again, that's without going through great details. Some of the testing we've talked about potentially doing more sodium. We've had a sodium knocking on the door. Iron and manganese, we're looking at $10 million bucks for a treatment plant. And I, for one, am thinking that if we study that a little bit more with Tom Camberry on board, we might be able to avoid that. So iron and manganese, I'd like to revisit the PFAS and maybe even some other organics that Chris and Jen and I talked about that we don't need to go into a great detail. But again, I don't see why we can't bump that budget up there. We don't need to spend it. We're not going to, I don't think any of it's wasteful. I think it's something that we really need to focus on. So I don't know if we want to go through the details of that, or if we want to look at the big picture number and put some buffer in there. But I also think that one's quite low.
I agree. I concur. I think a pound of prevention is the way to go. And you can't prevent if you don't know what's out there. So we need to be monitoring constantly, and then addressing issues as they arise. So, and I'd just as soon not have to go to the district and ask for a $10 million treatment plant for iron and manganese. So, where are we at with that?
Why don't we go back to the
Line
big
is 11.
picture budget item there? The
Yeah,
other,
I would have no problem adding another $4,000 to that.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, there you go. So the number we had in there last year with 12.6, and you got 11.5 now. If we were to make that 15,000, would that be a good number?
Yeah. What kind of a percent increase is that, Jen? We went to 15 there.
It would
You're looking
be,
at $2,400, right?
yep, this minus this. And we take this and divide it by that.
There you go. So it's a couple percent.
I mean, that may even be low, but I think
Might be, but it's
it's a start.
if we run into trouble, we can always go to ask for a special district meeting and go to the stabilization fund. But
Yep.
I'd just assume not.
Okay. And you've got the 6,000 in there for the intern. I see that. Go ahead,
Yep.
Chris.
Chris?
I just wanted to tell you guys on the testing, we do actually add testing that we don't really have to do there. Some of the stuff like the sodium, we had it in as getting tested once, but it's also done with the IOCs, which is getting tested once at a different time of year. So if you want to do that quarterly, we can. So you're keeping that sodium going through. The iron and the manganese is part of the secondaries, which is done once a year. So I mean, if you wanted to add just that to there, we could do it more.
Yep.
You would also talk about the PFAS. We put in 10 samples
Yep.
We're only required to do 5 right now. Excuse me, we put in 11. We were only required to do 5, and just in case we had to do more, we put in 5 more. So I think I don't know if it's too much, but I think you're right. We can always turn it back in. If you guys want to do more sampling, we can. If you want to set up a over and above schedule, fine.
And that's, I
Go ahead,
correct
Tom.
myself, that's a 19%
Yes.
increase.
Yep.
Which is, it's not a lot of money when you start testing
It's really not.
organics and inorganics.
No.
Stuff can add up quick, particularly if we have to start testing more for the PFAS, and we have to train somebody to test for that.
That's right. Okay, well, that's great. I think I'm comfortable with that. Are there other budget items here, Jen, we should discuss?
So just the intern I put in at 6,000, that was, we assumed 40 hours a week for 10 weeks at $15 an hour, I believe.
Yeah, and I've spoken with Commissioner Robinson about this. We both, and Tom, you may feel the same way. We might be able to do better than that. We might be able to find a student, a university to help out with a grant. I've already been talking to some people about that, but I don't want to rely on that. And I don't want to pass a policy or regulation with no way to implement it. So I think it's worth keeping this in here. And again, if we don't spend it, we don't have to.
Yeah. I think it's good. It's
good with that?
forward thinking. It's proactive. It makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
So with all of those changes, with the immediate increases as well as the cost of living, with the proposed new junior operator, with the proposed intern and the increased rates in overtime, we're actually coming in below last year's payroll budget by almost a full percent.
And that's because of Sean, Sean, right?
Yep,
Is that
correct.
the variable?
Yep.
Well, is there anything, I would almost go up a little bit on the testing. If I had to make another little click here, a little adjustment, and the other thing I'll just state, we are in a pretty good position, cash flow position here. We're, if we look at this as a little bit of a business, we're generating some revenue. One thought as a business owner is reinvest some of that into the business.
Great.
And I feel, I don't know, Tom, what are your thoughts? Is there anything else here we could beef up a little bit, or we want to beef up a little bit?
Well, I think it looks pretty good.
Okay. Doesn't hurt to come in with the same budget, right? And do more work.
Right. That's a pretty balanced.
That's pretty balanced. That's pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Less than 1%.
Chris or Jen, any further thoughts on?
I think that's more than generous. We did increase what we thought we had to there, and you guys are going over and above. So I think they're all valid.
I think if we could add anything to operations, I might add something to printing, because I know from time to time you guys want to do every door direct mailings. That would increase printing and postage. Like we had talked about putting an insert in with this March bill, but we didn't get the language in time. So we may want to do a mailing about the irrigation policy outreach and the hardship policy and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think outreach and increased awareness is always something you can add some money to, because those costs aren't going down. Postage isn't going down.
Okay.
Well, how much is an additional mailing a year, Jan?
So one of those every door direct mailings, I think when we did it for the irrigation workshop, it was like $659 to print and mail.
Why don't we bump that up to $8,000?
All right.
That's postage.
Whoops.
Oh, sorry. Printing.
That's my
Right.
fault.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yep. There you go. Add $1,000 there. So we're still pretty darn close to last year's budget, right?
Put that one back to 75 because I'll feel more comfortable.
Okay. Any further thoughts? Do we want to
Like it.
move to approve this? I'm pretty comfortable with it. I'm very comfortable with it.
I'll make a motion, we approve the proposed FY 2022 budget as shown on Jen's spreadsheet here.
I like
Okay,
it.
thank you, Tom, and I will
11th day of March 2021.
thank you, and I will second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Excellent. I guess I just want to say one other thing. I've given a lot of raises in my days, and the raises that I like giving the most are the ones that are not asked for. And you guys have done a great job, and you haven't been asking for a lot. And so I feel real good about what we did, and I'm looking forward to working with you.
I appreciate it. I thank you so much for that.
As do I. That
You're
was
welcome.
unexpected, and I really
Very
appreciate it.
unexpected, yes. I have just a couple notes, not even on this. It's something totally different, and I'm not
Sure, go
trying to
ahead.
keep anybody up too long, but
Go
just
ahead,
to update
Chris.
you. I had a guy call today who stuck in an irrigation well over on Mariner Circle. He just wanted to let me know that he did that.
He's on a private
Used
well?
what? Yeah,
Great,
he put it in.
great.
He said that it was about 60 feet deep and it cost him around $5,500.
Okay, that's about,
So just so you know the figures there and everything. And
okay.
the other thing is I got a phone call yesterday from one of the neighbors. There's been a lot going on since Mark put in a little bit about Little River and some of the social media out there. And she went down and I told her, I said, hey, if you really want to know what's going on, I said, start calling around, I said, the town and really be a pain. And she found out because I walked back there and it's been dug out right now. Somebody's been digging it out and there's
The
sand
river?
all over. Yeah. And then there's a stake out there that says capped pipe over by the water. And she ended up calling up and found out from Darcy from conservation that it's actually DPW's work. And Dan Santos talked to her and said that they believe that the pipe is clogged completely. They can't get any water out of there and they do not have the equipment to unclog it. So they're currently trying to find a private organization that can get in there and unclog it. So that's a little update.
From Levels? What pipe?
Yeah.
Yeah,
they-
it's
they
the
kind
levels
of believe
outlet.
that,
Yeah.
with the drought that we had, without the water going through there, that whatever was in there collapsed
Yeah.
through because it was dry and there was no water seeping through and keeping everything clean, so that it kind of closed off when everything happened.
Well, that culvert's been there for decades.
Yeah, and you could still see it. I walked down there and I could look in the water. If I was a little braver, I might have walked out and stuck my hand down in it, but I didn't. Yeah.
Well, thanks
So
for
that's
those
a little
updates,
update on
Chris.
that, too.
That's, I may be speaking with Dan myself, so I'll try to circle back on that, but
That's great.
good
yeah.
to know that we're gonna try to take care of that, because I've heard that as well too, that's been clogged, and it'd be nice
Yeah.
to get that squared away.
I know in the past, anecdotal information is that people from Katuitt kept that thing flowing. And
True.
some of those people are still around, but they're my age now. So we don't do that anymore.
Right. There was a
We
young
asked
kid
somebody
who
else
told
to
me-
do it.
Just saying.
All right.
All right, well, thanks
And
for
then-
bringing those to our attention. Jen, did you have something else?
Just before we leave the budget completely, I just want to remind you, Monday night at 6 PM is the Prudential Committee meeting where we'll be presenting this. And
Yep.
Tom, I believe they're going to talk about the capital improvement plan there as well.
Yes, and I sent Jen a copy of the capital improvement plan that I had marked up. Did you see my comments on that, Jen? Were you able to see those?
I could see the draft itself. I printed it, scanned it as a PDF, and attached it with these documents so that there was a chance to review them before the meeting
I
Monday.
did see that. I had a couple of problems with the changed wording on those things. Just
Okay.
nothing major. Just some minor concerns about how rigid the wording was. And so I'll make sure to bring that up when we talk about that on Monday.
Gotcha.
But we want to make it. We want to keep it transparent and help the district understand what our plans are, but we also don't want to get stuck to something that was put together as a 5-year plan and that's it, right? And that was kind of my concern.
So
I've got the Prue meeting in my calendar on Monday as well. Tom, there was one meeting you were gonna go to for me. It's a different meeting, right?
Ooh,
Am I confusing this, or?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Do you
I'll
not
circle-
have that meeting in there?
I do have the Prue meeting on Monday, the 15th. Is that right, Jen? You just
Yes.
mentioned that?
Yep.
But I thought there was a meeting, and I'll double check my schedule. There was something that I know I had a conflict on it, and I asked you guys, and you kindly volunteered, Tom. but now I'm not remembering which meeting that was. So I'll circle back with you and
Okay.
confirm.
Might be in the last meeting minutes too, or at least
Yeah,
on the
it's
video.
not ringing a bell with me either, so.
Okay, let me get back to you, Tom,
Okay.
on that. I'll double check. I'm not sure when I'm remembering something that I had to come. I'm nervous that I don't have something in my calendar that I should have.
So then in the.
Let me know, because I don't.
You're available in case we need you. Okay.
Gotcha. So in the budget document request that I received from Ray, he's also going to be looking for a 5-year capital asset purchase plan. The only thing Chris and I have talked about is that the 2014 truck will be due to be replaced in 2024 with the plow.
So is that in addition to the capital improvement plan that's a 5-year outlook? So now we want to do it twice?
Well,
Well,
that,
it's what expenditures to expect in the next 5 years.
I like that better.
Yeah.
yeah, we're looking at a truck. I've got some calls out there trying to get a price back just to see how much it would cost, and try to know that in 2 years, it's probably going to be, like, I'm not sure which fiscal year, but we bought that in 2013, the end of the winter of 2013. And it's a 14, so it's due to be replaced. It'll be 10 years old in December of 2023. And that's be the time to change it. It's just getting kind of, it's been plowed with. Not a ton, because we haven't had the snow we used to
This
have,
year.
but it still beats up that truck something fierce.
Okay. Anything else?
And then our next regular meeting is the 24th. So as long as you have all those on your calendar, you're good.
Right. Okay.
Might have been something to do with the elementary school, Scott,
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering too, Tom.
which I've been trying to stay abreast of and keep
Yep.
up with.
Yeah, I'll go through my calendar tomorrow, Tom, and I'll get back to you. But if you could keep Monday penciled in just in case, I thought that'd be great.
Monday,
Crew meeting.
the 15th.
Yep.
Yeah.
I posted
There
it
is
as a
something
public.
they have on Monday, the 22nd, which is a elementary school meeting, which I can't make,
Oh.
but that's okay. They've probably heard me enough.
Okay. Well, I'll get back to you on that. Is there any other business tonight? All right. Well, thank you, Jen and Chris, for being prepared and presenting all those facts and figures and numbers. A lot to go through, and we'll look forward to meeting again shortly.
That's a good
All right,
job, Stephen.
I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Okay, I'll second that and ask for the support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Carol, thank you for attending, and JR and Matt, thanks for being with us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks,
And
guys.
we'll be meeting shortly. So,
See you Monday.
See you Monday.
right.
See you Monday.
Good night, everyone.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
everybody.
Thank you, Jen.